Hello everyone, in this video we're going to cover how to use the equation playground. So let's get started. So the equation playground in Danomics is used for testing out new equations. As you're going through, you may determine that the platform doesn't come with all the customized equations that you want, and you may want to build some equations of your own. So for example, in this tutorial, we are going to explore how you can effectively use the equation playground. So you can click the Add Equation button to add additional equations, and you can use this X to remove equations. By default, your equation playground will come populated with a VClay example. If a curve already exists, for example, saturation, you can just type that in, and we'll see that the saturation is populated. We can do the same for, let's say, total porosity, effective porosity, etc. But let's say we want to put in a truly custom equation. Like, for example, we might want to determine the permeability. And to determine permeability, so we type permeability and it says there's no matching equation, so we're going to build our own. And we're going to use the Teamer equation for permeability. And so we're just going to paste this in here. It's a relationship between irreducible water saturation and effective porosity. And what we see is that, we don't have an SWIRR curve. This is something that you would generally get from your core, but we can actually use the equation playground just to quickly create a constant value for this. And so we're going to define SWIRR as a constant. And now the error message goes away for our permeability. The equation playground is generally used for testing out equations. So the equations as they're in here are quite ephemeral, and they're not going to be they're not going to be available for use for export, nor within your modules. If you wanted to make this equation more permanent, what we would do is once we've got an answer and an equation that we're satisfied with, here in the equation playground, we would come over here to our CPI config, and we could type this into our overrides. So we tell our config that this is an equation, and we put a couple of spaces, and then we type in the name. So the name is permeability, or perm, and then we type in the expression for this. And if you're wondering where this is all coming from, this is all available in our help. And now we're just going to copy and paste this equation. Control V. And that's all there is to it. Now we hit Submit Custom Overrides, and now perm exists within our configuration file as an equation. So now we can, let's get rid of these equations. So now that equation is no longer here. But if we come in and say Add Equation and type perm, now we'll see that it still gives us an error here, and that's because we had the SWIRR. So we need to come back to our config, and we need to add that irreducible water saturation. Oops. And we had just given that a constant value. So we are going to, once again, say submit, and now we come back here, and let's just jump to a different plot and then jump back to our equation playground. And now we see that permeability exists without us having to enter an equation. And for example, if you wanted to come and add it to another plot, like let's say we wanted to add it to our saturation track now, we could come in here and we could add a curve, and we could add permeability, put that on a log scale. Let's go 0.01 to 10. Or let's say 1,000 even, and now we can see the influence of our permeability and our water saturation. So that is how we can use the equation playground to test out curves, and then use our config override to make that curve permanent. And now that curve is available for export as well. All right, I hope this video was useful to you. And remember, as always, to save your work.